If everything going on in your life feels wild and out of control, like you feel like you're trapped, or you feel like you're wanting these things, but it's not right to want the things that you want, and you've always got to compromise for this or that, you feel like you have this energy that should be going to other things, but for some reason you can't set yourself down and do those things. You can't find the energy to invest in yourself or to love yourself because you got so much going on. You have people around you that are absolutely volatile, awful to be around. You've got bosses that are absolutely wretched and always in a foul mood. Your work sucks. Your relationship sucks. And on top of that, you just can't seem to find the grace that you need to keep taking steps forward. And for a lot of us, that is a feeling that sinks in every single day. But I'm going to let you know that this feeling can go away. And it's a true feeling. It's something that is indicating something that we're missing. And we've been missing whatever this is for so long. And I'm telling you, it's all about subconscious drives. Let's say that I offered you $1 million to spend 24 hours in a cage full of tigers, right? Now, this is a feat that has been done by humans before. And we know that there are conditions in which you can go into a tiger cage and actually not be hurt at all and get out totally fine. In fact, you might even be able to interact with the tigers, pet them and all this. You might be able to do that. But it all requires that I feed them before you go in that cage. It requires that their bellies be full, because there are two drastically different outcomes that are going to happen if I put you in a cage full of hungry tigers or tigers who have just ate as much as they possibly can. And my friends, this is the key to so much struggle. Almost all the struggle that you see in your life and the lives around you, these people that are so miserable. And sometimes these people are us, of course, but most of us are living lives as if we are starving, caged tigers. And the thing is, in the human world, these bars aren't actually iron. They're constructs from our own mentality, placed by expectations of society that have been pushed on us, or people around us that have been slowly building these things. And the thing is, we build these iron bars, and we come to find that we construct them. We made them, and we hold them in place because we think breaking the bars makes us bad, or bending these bars is a good or an evil process. The reality is we have so many unmet needs all the time that are running in the backgrounds of our minds, and we don't acknowledge these things as needs because society has built these constructs, these mental constructs that make you think that indulging in these things is selfish or vile or evil. Today, we invest way too much energy and attention on ideas like mental health. And I know that might be a wild thing coming from a guy that runs a YouTube channel on getting your mindset right and occult spirituality, right? That seems wild. But the truth is, our mindset is a consequence of subconscious drives that are either met or they're unmet. And when these drives are met or unmet, they change the feelings that we have, and those feelings change the thought patterns we have, and the thought patterns change the behaviors that we exhibit in real life. And no one can break these things. Most of us are aware of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But to simplify these things, or to really be more precise about these things, I have made a list on all the things that you would need to keep a human being in a zoo and to keep that human being docile and happy. So just meditate on these things. And as I go through the list, I want you to say in your head whether you have these things or you don't. I'm going to be real brief about what each one means. And if you don't have a lot of these things, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that you probably live a life that is absolutely wretched and painful, and you probably wake up every day asking what the point of everything is. So let's go ahead and go through them. Adequate living space, comfortable living conditions, access to private space, a balanced diet, regular engaging activities, opportunities for education and learning, time with family and friends, participation in community activities, mental health support, freedom of choice. That is the feeling that you have volition over your own life. Time for recreation and leisure, at least 3 hours of exercise every week where your heart rate is elevated and it is hard to catch your breath. 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night. Access to medical care. Shame-free sexual release. Predictability in your daily routines, weekly routines, predictability in your direct environment. That means if I place a thing down one day and I don't come back, when I come back to that place, that thing is in the place that I put it. Access to natural settings or time in natural environments. This means we are looking at things that are green and blue and feeling the wind blow and grass on our feet. And finally, a sense of purpose or feelings of self-importance or value. I think way too many people are far too quick to say that there's something wrong with them. There's something wrong with why they're depressed. There's something wrong with the way their brain works. When in reality, I'm betting that at least 5 or 6 of those things on that list are completely absent from that person's life. And this is why the understanding of subconscious drives is some of the most powerful wisdom that you can actually imbibe. It's one of the most powerful things you can understand. And that is that essentially you and I are animals with pre-evolutionary programming, and we are always running that programming. And when we believe that we are somehow above this programming, that somehow we don't need 8 hours of sleep. For some reason, I don't need social connection. For some reason, I don't actually need free time. You've come to find that these wretched personality traits start to emerge from within you. And these wretched traits are these cravings, this hunger to get these subconscious drives met. And what happens is these wretched behaviors manifest in places they ought not be manifesting in, which leads you to having coworkers that suck, bosses that are mad, you and I walking around hating everyone we see and feeling absolutely down all the time, when most of it just has to do with us not acknowledging that we are beings that have to do the things on those lists. And it shouldn't feel bad doing them because we need them. We really do. And as I said before, we place so much emphasis on our mental well-being without acknowledging that there's this whole bunch of machinery made of meat doing all of this stuff, balancing our hormones, balancing our blood sugar, making sure that electricity propagates itself through connections within you at certain intervals and frequencies. It's a beautiful, awesome thing that requires harmony, and we disrespect it, and we are trained to disrespect it because we're easier to control when these things are not respected. It's easier to get you to do things out of fear when you are missing core drives, when you are missing the actual alleviation of these pangs within you. When you are missing out on sleep all the time, you are literally stupider than normal. When you are not eating the way you should, you are literally stupider than normal. When you are feeling lonely and depressed and sad, when you have no access to space that is allowing you to have restful privacy, you are literally stupider over time because you are fighting with so many internal mechanisms that are trying to get their way and they simply can't get their way. Moral psychologist Jonathan Haidt is famous for talking about the idea, the truth, it's really the truth, that human beings will feel a way about something and then rationalize why they feel that way. We don't rationalize things and then create a feeling out of the rationality. That would be a logical way to be. But human beings are far from logical creatures. We are creatures that have just stumbled on the ability to use rational logic. And we love it so much that we identify with it as our core human trait, when in reality, we are some violent, prideful, hungry, sexual, monstrous creatures in our core. And if we can just accept all of that, then we will find the ability to be as blissful as fully fed tigers in a cage. Let me give you an example of how I am a fairly emotional creature, not so logical. Back in the day, I really loved the song Money for Nothing by Dire Straits because I like to play guitar and it is one of the most righteous, vicious riffs ever in guitar history. Listen to this. Now, I loved this song until I listened to an 8-minute version of it. So one day I had an 8-minute version just randomly land on my playlist. I'd never heard this version. I always thought the 3-minute version was the only one that there ever was. But this lyric kicked in. We gotta install those microwave ovens, custom kitchen deliveries. We gotta move these refrigerators. We gotta move these color TVs. This song was passively on, and I heard that, and I'd never heard that. I never heard that section of the song. And I couldn't believe I heard it. Now, this song was made way back in the day, right? So that word is a slur for gay people. And back then, this is a time when this was written that being gay wasn't socially acceptable. Now, hearing it now with dear friends that I connect to, people I love and would risk my life for that are homosexual. So I hear this and it makes me completely averse. I want to puke hearing it. I can't believe I enjoyed a song that used that word in it, that would just throw that word around like that, that would talk about a group of people that I love so much, so negatively. But does it really change how good that guitar riff is? Does it really change it? No. But I tell you what, every time I hear that riff, I'm automatically disgusted hearing it. No matter how much I loved it before, I am disgusted to hear it because, again, our brains are emotional machines that come up with emotional inputs and then rationalize the output. And no matter how hard I try to rationalize why that riff isn't that good, I can't. And nothing is going to change that it sounds different to me every time I hear it now. In the case of my song there, the song made me so disgusted because it broke one of my primal drives, which is to have social connection. And the people I was socially connected with that are homosexuals, that makes me very averse to hear that word, which makes me not like the whole song now. As amazing as that is to have so much joy extrapolated from music to be completely robbed just because context is changed. Absolutely phenomenal. So meditate on all of the things that you're doing that don't make rational sense, and then ask yourself, what's the emotional reason that you do these things, and you will find the emotional reason that you're doing these things come from some sort of subconscious drive that you are not allowing yourself to acknowledge as a real human need, a real drive, a real desire. And if you can allow yourself to fulfill those desires, you will become much more graceful, much more happy with every aspect of your life. Now, this leads us to one of my favorite philosophers, Friedrich Nietzsche. And Nietzsche says something about happiness is a straight line towards your desire. Nietzsche believed that all of our core desires were from a will to power, which means that humanity and all creatures evolving, all these creatures growing and changing shape and living in general, all of these creatures and all the forces within the universe are trying to align themselves to become more powerful or to have control over itself. And that all drives, all human drives, are pushes towards power or more control. And if I go over the list again, just briefly, privacy. To have a private space, you've got to have control over that space. You got to be able to tell people they can't come in, they can't look at you, they can't see you. To have a balanced diet, you have to have power to pull in nutrients from your environment or the correct nutrients that you want. It requires control, requires power. The ability to be around family and friends requires you have control over yourself, control over your emotions and the things that you say and the behaviors that you exhibit around those people. If you're too out of cue, then ain't nobody gonna want to be around you, and ain't nobody gonna actually attach their self ideals to you. Recreation and leisure can't be attained if you are so busy trying to solve all sorts of problems. You can't actually be restful. You can't actually have any free time because you don't have power. Human beings need sexual release, different from individual to individual. The means of which they get that release is different from individual to individual, but it doesn't change the fact that for you and I to exist, somebody had to bust one. All right. Somebody had to take one and somebody had to bust one. And that is absolutely true for every person that you see. Human beings have sexual desires, and it requires power. You require some sort of control over yourself, or maybe control with your partner or whatever in order to get that release. But it doesn't change that it is a fundamental drive. So Nietzsche never made the argument that everything that human beings do is just a way to propagate genetics. He was making the argument that anything that everything does is an effort to have more control. And control really is how straight the path is between you and what you desire is. As soon as we have deviations in that straight line, it starts to curve, it starts to go to the left, starts to go off course, we start to feel agitation and pain. And happiness really is a straight line, my friends. So the key to you getting grace in your life is creating a straight line between you and that list of desires and modulating just how much of all of those things you are getting. And if you take the time to make sure you get those things, you will be happier and you will be powerful. We are conditioned to believe that happiness is something we have direct control over, that we can just live lives that we have no feeling of autonomy over, that we can live lives always satisfying the needs of people around us at the price of our own health, our own psyche, our own drives. And somehow we can still be happy whilst doing that. And it's our fault if we can't stay happy and do that at the same time, when this is conditioning that has been placed down on most individuals as a slave-like conditioning. Reality really doesn't care about the process. Reality is really about the outcome. It doesn't matter if you haven't had any rest all week, or you didn't get any sleep, or you didn't get any free time, or you haven't had sex in months, or you haven't had anything to eat. When you're working at a corporation, that corporation just wants you to be there and move the materials that they want you to move. They want you to be there to fulfill the purpose that is necessary to keep that system alive. And so many people are treating you as if you were a cog to be plugged into their system. And I'm telling you all to be brave and to be bold and start appreciating yourselves as your own unique systems with your own drives and your own desires that you really didn't decide on. These are things that are just built in. These are just things of nature. And to acknowledge these things straightforward without judgment and to pursue them and to indulge, and you will find that you will be much more graceful and much more happy with every day. This is Nick Newman with the Conscienticon. I'd like to stop and ask y'all to hit that subscribe button and hit that like button because I'm a selfish creature myself and I would like this channel to grow as large as it possibly can so I can keep helping people learn new things about practical wisdom, modern navigation through life, spirituality, occult, hidden ideas. That's what we're about here, helping us become as powerful and masterful as possible. And I'd also like to stop and thank the patrons for supporting the Conscienticon. I thank you all so very deeply. And if you too are interested in going to the next level, check us out there on Patreon, where we share exclusive videos there, private videos, and I share access to free ebooks that I create, that I sell online and all of that. So check that stuff out. And I thank you all so very much for being here. And I hope that you feel better.